I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I love most, she had so much soul. Hey everybody, it's Old School Heart. I hope that everyone is doing well. Here in Chicago, it's reported that, we got 8 to 9 inches of snow. It's freezing cold here. It's also said that in Texas, there is no electricity, there is no gas, there is no heat. And so if you were affected by this cold weather, these icy storms, I hope that you are safe and warm. Today's video is going to be a review on Judas and the Black Messiah that appeared on HBO Max this past Friday. So this is a spoiler alert. If you have not watched the movie, please go ahead and watch the movie and then come back for the review. I do not want to get to the end of this and look at the comments and someone is saying, you told everything. I'm telling you now that there are a lot of spoiler alerts in this review. So please watch it first and then come back to the video and provide some feedback and some comments for me. I greatly appreciate it. So this movie is based on the recount of the interview William O'Neill did with PBS for the special Eyes on the Prize 2 in 1989. Although the hype around this movie is based solely on Fred Hampton. The movie starts off with Fred at a speaking engagement where he challenges the audience to create a movement of resistance, that through resistance comes real change. And it's at this event that he is introduced to his future love and the mother of his child, Deborah Johnson, who is played by the beautiful Dominique Fishback. We are then introduced to William O'Neill, who is played by the eccentric yet very, very talented Lakeith Stanfield, who steals a car. It is at this time we come to understand how he infiltrates the Chicago Black Panthers and, more importantly, Fred Hampton. The FBI gives O'Neill a choice, so he can either go to jail or he can be an informant. And so, of course, O'Neill chooses the latter. The story unfolds as we see O'Neill join the Panthers. He is much surprised to learn the education, discipline, and hard work it takes to become a Black Panther. There's even a scene in the movie where we see O'Neill being disciplined for flirting with a female Black Panther, and so there's this discipline in the group. There's this training that O'Neill has to be a part of. And it's very, very serious. We see Fred Hampton reiterate, how important it is to stay focused and that they don't fraternize with the women. This is a real movement that is trying to do real work, and being distracted by being in love or trying to fall in love or trying to get whatever you're trying to get is not something that would be taken lightly there. And so, of course, he ends up having to do push-ups because of it. During this movie, O'Neill at times seems very, very jumpy, almost very, very nervous. The more that he infiltrates the Black Panther Party, the more nervous I see him become. Meanwhile, we see Fred in this Christ-like image, being lifted high, teaching the people, organizing, and even meeting with, local gangs to try to unionize and come together. And so there's this contrast between the two men. You see O'Neill being way more sneaky, and we see, Fred Hampton maintaining this power and leadership, this leading aura that he had around him. You see the difference between the two men. You can tell, throughout this movie that O'Neill has no real evidence, but Roy Mitchell, who is his superior, has consistently brainwashed him into believing that Hampton is a serious threat, and so although O'Neill sees nothing, hears nothing, knows nothing, only sees good work done by Fred Hampton, he has been convinced that he is now serving a purpose in infiltrating the Black Panther Party. So the movie continues, and we see this developing love story between Hampton and Deborah, right? And we also see the shooting of one of the Black Panthers. I can't remember his name right now, but there is a shooting of a Black Panther that occurs. And then we see Hampton actually be arrested and taken to jail for stealing like $70 worth of ice cream. And it's this time and this moment that creates an opportunity for O'Neal to dive deeper into the organization and to kind of get to a position of lead, that he didn't have while Hampton was out and free. Now, while Hampton is in jail, the Black Panthers are falling apart. What we see is a loss in membership, and a loss in membership means a loss in funding. You see them being consistently harassed by cops, all while still trying to run the organization the way that Hampton would have liked. A shootout happens where we see the sister who I say stole the movie, Judy Harmon, played by Dominique Thorne, occur. This is also the young lady who tests William O'Neal, to make sure that he was legit. This sister stole the movie, but we see the shootout between her and CPD. We also see Jake Winters, played by Algie Smith. And you guys will recall Algie Smith is from the New Edition movie. Love that movie. And a couple of other movies he's been in lately. He's been doing his thing, but we see him, he plays Jake Winters, and he's just trying to find out, who killed his friend. I still can't think of that young man's name, but we see him, having issues with that death, having issues surrounding what happened. So we see that going on as well. Now, during this time, O'Neal really believes that he is making gains. And even more so, Roy feels that O'Neal is doing quite a good job. And you see almost this fake camaraderie between O'Neal and Roy, where Roy, seems or appears to be a friend of O'Neal's. And they seem like they're, making strides in, tearing this organization down, especially while Fred is locked up and is unaware of what is happening. So, Fred Hampton is released, and, he finds out that Deborah is very, very pregnant. And that relationship is just so beautiful to watch, but also very, very disheartening to watch, knowing what happens. But, he tells her that she's beautiful, and, she has reassurance now that he is back. But Fred Hampton is Fred Hampton, and so the work continues. He's trying to pick up the pieces and trying to restore the organization back to before he went into jail. All the while, we have O'Neal, who is trying his best to trip them up and trying to come up with things that would cause them to do criminal activity. And of course, Hampton and all the other men that help Hampton out, all the other Black Panthers are not having it. And it's so funny, the things that O'Neal comes up with are so juvenile and so ill prepared that, it's so easy for Hampton and his followers to totally disagree. Like, O'Neal to me was one of the dumbest infiltrators ever. The only thing that kept him very, very successful is that he was good at, safety. He was good at, he was good at setting up protection and safety and different things of that nature. And so, it just shows, O'Neal was trying his best to try to trip them up in some way, but Hampton was 10 in some aspects, if you look at it, because he still was able to infiltrate, but Hampton was a lot smarter than O'Neal and wouldn't fall for the dumb things, O'Neal was trying to set up. As the work continues, Hampton still has the case of the ice cream. They're not letting that go in Chicago. It's just not going to happen. And so what they find out is that Hampton will have to go back to jail. And so Roy is naive and believes that they've made strides, and he meets with Hoover. Or I believe Hoover or another part of the FBI. He's like, hey, he's going back to jail. And that is where, Hoover tells him, when we put people in jail, they become infamous. They become very famous people. People want to know who they are. People want to know their story. And the more that people know their story, the more that they consider us bad. And that's not something that we can have. He pretty much is brainwashed, in the same way that he has brainwashed O'Neal. Hoover tells him that Hampton staying alive is a threat to white supremacy, is a threat to white power. Specifically, it's a threat to white women. And that is something that I have seen time and time again. In order for white power to be invoked, it's using the white woman. You know what I'm saying? It's the safety of the white woman. That is how a lot of white power and a threat to white power is conveyed in, the safety of white women. And so Hoover is like, if Hampton stays alive, we're looking at losing our white women. We're looking at not being superior anymore. And do you really, really want that? And it is that moment that Roy, who's never probably looked at this the same way as Hoover before, now does. And everything changes after that. What does that mean? That means that O'Neal's work is not done. Roy's work is not done. And unfortunately, O'Neal is in too deep. He cannot get out. They won't let him get out. Even though, a lot of times during this movie, we see O'Neal in some way trying to get out, but also being convinced that staying in is significant. But unfortunately, he draws the map of the outlay of the apartment. And so late December 4th, 1969, Fred is assassinated. O'Neal is compensated for his infiltration, his work, as he wanted to be. That was told as well, that, he really wanted to make sure that if he was going to do this, he was going to be paid for it. So he got money as well as a gas station in Chicago. And, the story goes right back to the interview that O'Neal did in 1989 with Eyes on the Prize. It is after that interview that, of course, we know O'Neal dies by suicide. And I think he did it in traffic or something like that. I know it was something extreme. But after that interview, he does die by suicide. And that is the end of the movie. Of course, I didn't go through everything. I do want to leave some things out. If you've watched this review, even though I told you not to, if you watched this review before you watched the movie. So we all know why you're here. You're here because you want to hear my real opinion about the movie. But I don't like tearing down stuff before I build it up. So let's start with the pros of the movie. The cinematography on this film was superb. I love the direction of the film. You know, there was not a part that I was not engaged in. And I've watched it like 6 times, but I found myself rewinding certain parts so that I can get everything from the story. And so I enjoyed how just well the movie flowed and how it looked as we watched the movie. You know, even the details of, you know, how the 70s, you know, in Chicago housing was. It wasn't the best, you know, it was, you know, things missing from the tile and different things like that. And so, you know, we see the level of poverty in this movie as well. And I don't know if you guys saw it, but there were a lot of parts I was like, it's a hole in the wall. It's dirty right here. It's just, you know, even Fred Hampton and Deborah with the white t-shirts on, you know, going to bed, you know, that was just like, yeah, this was really done. And the costume design was, the costumes and everything like that was way on point. I know it doesn't take a lot to have the brigades and the black attire, but, you know, just what they wore during that time, it was really good, you know, and I thought they did an awesome job with that. Now the casting was my favorite. I believe the casting was amazing in this movie and probably one of the best things about this movie. I absolutely love Dominique Fishback, who played Deborah in the movie. She's so cute. She's so cute. She has innocent eyes. She just brings, you could just feel the youth in her, you know, and Deborah was very young at that point, and so they looked remarkable, like they looked like twins, and I enjoyed her in the movie. She was also in Project Power with Jamie Foxx that came out over the summer, and so she has been doing a really good job, and I hope that she's considered in more roles. I also love that she is a, you know, a chubby girl like me. You know, it's awesome to see somebody like her getting more roles in Hollywood. And so love me some Dominique Fishback. Also, you know, we have Dominique Thorne, who I'm not very familiar with, but Dominique Thorne did her thing in this movie. She was a beast. You cannot tell me she did not steal like a lot of those scenes, especially when she was telling O'Neal, hey, do them push-ups. We told you to calm down, calm your little, you know, little penis down, you know, do these push-ups since you don't know how to listen. And then, you know, when she was telling him about, you know, hot wire this car, I got something in my boot so that you can hot wire this car. You know, you're not going to get away. We want to know who you are. And so I thought she was quite brilliant. Never heard of her before, but I hope that there are way more roles for her. And of course, Lakeith has always been a favorite of mine. Always been a favorite of mine. You know, he was so sexy in The Photograph. That movie was okay, you know, but you know, he's easy on the eyes. We love Lakeith. But let's talk about Daniel. Let's talk about Daniel Kaluuya. I think it's Kaluuya or Kaluuya. I don't know how you say the last name, Daniel. I do apologize, but Daniel, I know that he's taken a lot of criticism because he is not an American descendant of slaves, and that's understandable. You know, I rock with ADOS. I love the reparations movement. And I can understand what people are like, you know, Fred Hampton is from Chicago, you know, the vernacular, everything, you know, you need somebody that knows that was around the area, that knows about Fred Hampton, you know, but I think that Daniel did this role justice. And at times while watching this movie, I closed my eyes and Daniel had Hampton's voice down to a T. He doesn't look like Fred, but his mannerisms and his voice alone was superb. You have to give him that. I don't care if you're like, he's not an ADOS, he's not an ADOS. I don't care. You have to give him props for how he played the role. He did a damn good job. He did his damn thing in this movie. And, you know, a friend told me, and shout out to Dion, a friend told me that, you know, he's doing Fred Hampton all while also still doing Queen and Slim, you know. And so that first scene that you see Fred Hampton, Fred Hampton, you know, giving that speech at the college, you know, he only had a week break and he was still doing Queen and Slim. So to go back between those two very, very different roles shows the level of skill that Daniel has. And I have no problems with him in this movie. I think it's very good. I think it puts Daniel at the top of the list as one of the actors to watch in 2021 and so on. You know, Queen and Slim was okay, but I think that this is the movie that sets him apart from other actors. So let's go on to the cons of this movie. Let's talk about what I did not like about the movie and ultimately why you're here, probably. So, a big con of mine, a huge con of mine. I've watched several documentaries on Fred Hampton, on the Black Panther Party. I've seen a number of news interviews and different clips of the aftermath of Fred Hampton's death. We know that after Fred Hampton died, a lot of the Black Panthers decided to open up the home so that they can see the destruction that CPD had on that house and on everybody in that house. So, you know, there are several clips of tours being done of the aftermath of the assassination, you know, and that was most chilling for me because, you know, there's an interview where there's one of the Black Panthers who has no emotion during this time. And he's like, come in and see how the pigs killed, you know, Fred. And I know that there is emotion there, but I think that they have been through so much as an organization. I think that they knew that Fred Hampton would ultimately be killed. And I think that it's such a significant part of the story of Fred Hampton and his death that leaving that out for me was a no-no. You know, I wanted the viewers, I wanted the people that were watching this to see the aftermath of the destruction that CPD caused, you know, going through that house, seeing the blood, seeing all the bullets in the walls and different things like that, you know, would have added more of an impact, not only to this movie, but to people's opinions of CPD and people's opinions of, you know, what happened during that time. And so I was really disappointed that that wasn't added. And so that's one thing that I had a problem with. And the biggest thing, you know, and then I'll be done and you guys can add your comments. But one of the biggest thoughts of mine, or one of the things that I think about quite a bit, is white comfortability. And what I mean by white comfortability is how uncomfortable, seeing this movie, how uncomfortable does it make white people? I didn't see, or I don't know of any white people who have watched Judas and the Black Messiah. I know, you know, I'm surrounded by a lot of Black people, so it's really hard for me to know what our white counterparts think. But I measure some movies, especially movies like this, on white comfortability. And I want there to be so much of an uneasiness that they ask for accountability, that they ask for change, or that it invokes change. That's what I hope for when we have these movies. Unfortunately, I feel as if this movie won't make them uncomfortable at all. And for that, I am unhappy. And I will have to give this movie, the acting on this movie, I give it an 8.5, a 9. No problem. The storyline, I'm going to have to give it a 4 or a 5. And that is because O'Neal's infiltration and ability to work with the FBI and CPD overshadows how sick and evil the FBI and all those that worked behind the scenes on killing Fred Hampton really are. We are talking about people who had been following Hampton since he was 14. The FBI had been on Fred Hampton's ass since he was young. You know, anybody that was associated with Bobby Seale, with Huey Newton, all of these people, Eldridge Cleaver, you know, anybody that was associated with them were followed immediately and were seen as a threat. And, you know, unfortunately, we don't see just how sick these people are, you know, just how evil and the mindset that they really had. You know, there's a part where Hoover, you know, like I said, talks about, you know, what will happen if Hampton stays alive, you know, and it's a threat to white women that we want to continue to keep safe, you know, and he used that quite a bit. But that wasn't enough for me. That wasn't enough for me. You know, what I fear is that people will be way more upset with O'Neal's behavior and what O'Neal did rather than being upset with the powers that be that were behind O'Neal, rather than the fact that they set O'Neal up from the beginning, you know, and in intricate details at that, you know, asking him, giving him an ultimatum, right? You know, you either do this or you go to jail. You know, that was the first thing. And then, you know, Roy making him feel like he's a part of the family, you know, that he's doing something admirable, you know, that he is going to create a change, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, inviting him to the home to eat and different things like that. And so you have a young man who, you know, didn't have much of an influence on his life, didn't have a role model like that. And to have somebody like Roy, you know, giving him kudos and letting him know, you know, you're going to get a big reward for this, shows, you know, just how sick white supremacy really is and how sick these people are. But did this film show that? And I will have to say, no, it did not. You know, it did not show that. You know, it just showed, you know, somebody like O'Neal who was easily influenced and was able to take on a task that ultimately hurt a number of people, that ultimately hurt a whole movement. And, you know, how disgusted, you know, we should be at O'Neal, on top of the fact that O'Neal died by suicide didn't make it any better to the story, you know. And I mean, it's true, you know, he did die by suicide, but, you know, that being added on shows how guilty O'Neal was, you know. But it doesn't show just how powerful the FBI was and just how manipulative the FBI was, and ultimately, you know, them destroying a movement and killing a young man who was only 21, who was about to become a father, who scarred, you know, Deborah for her entire life. You know, I would only assume Deborah went through so much, you know, and then having the baby a month later, you know, hearing the shots and different things like that, being harassed by CPD, and then the cops lying about the whole thing, it's too much of a story of you not to make them out to be despicable. And that's what I was hoping for. But I've seen a lot of people, as they talk about this movie, have more disgust for O'Neal, and a lot of the comments have been, Black people are the worst, are our worst enemies, we are our own enemies. And if that's what we're walking away from this movie, then we've missed it altogether. And therefore, the people who made this movie, and I believe, I forgot the name of the guy who made this movie. I can't think of the guy who made this movie. I don't think he did a good job then. I don't think he did a good job if that's what people are walking away from. They should walk away from feeling like Hoover is and I cannot cuss here, but I'm not saying it, but y'all know what I'm saying. That's what we should have walked away from. And so that is my critique of Judas and the Black Messiah. I definitely want to know your thoughts on the movie. What you loved about the movie, the characters that you loved, and then also what you did not like about the movie. How do you feel about Daniel playing Fred Hampton as well? I want to hear your thoughts on that. I know I have a couple of ADOS friends, that are passionate about who they want to play these particular roles. But for me, some things I let slide. And this is one of them. I really didn't care. I think Daniel did a very good job. But let me know your thoughts. Like this video, share this video, and keep warm. Please keep warm and be safe. This is Old School Heart. Have a good day.